everybody. Hi, everybody. Here we are again, and Sharon's waving, and Sharon's muted, and so we can't hear Sharon. I guess I'll unmute Sharon.
Oh, so I unmuted myself. Leo was barking right as we came on.
Imagine that, huh? Anyway, so here it is, Saturday. Me and Sharon's in Ohio. We got a big show today. And as Ed Sullivan used to say it, we got a really big shoe today. We have two awesome dogs. We have a special guest with us. So let's just get started, everybody. Let's start with with our boy up in Michigan right now. And everybody, I want you to meet Lenny. Or should I start over again? Should we start the countdown timer again? Everybody, I want you to meet Maverick. Okay, Maverick's this beautiful boy up in Michigan, and he's waving to us. And we had somebody photobomb him in the background. But that's quite okay. That would be Coco. Okay, and Abby's Maverick's foster. Hi, Abby. And so, what can you tell us about Mr. Maverick?
Yeah, so Mr. Maverick is, I've had him for about just over a month and a half now. He was chained up outside just because he was in a house with a lot of kids, and he doesn't quite realize he's a big old boy. But we're working on some space things right now. He's nice and tired from his exercise from his nice weekend exercise. He just loves to play cuddle. That's his routine. He gets along really, really well with my female Pyr. He has, I would say, maybe the opposite of resource guarding. He just loves to share and bring you things and bring my dog things. He loves to play with the neighborhood kids. We like to say hi to dogs on our walk. So he's doing really, really well. He's a sweet boy, potty trained, crate trained. He knows his basic commands, and we're working on a little bit more. So he's just a sweet, gentle puppy with a little bit of an old man soul.
How much did you say he weighs, or did you?
Well, when I first got him, I took him to the vet, and he was right at 90 pounds. But we've been working on putting some weight. So he's probably above that now. He just went to the groomer yesterday, or we did the do-it-yourself groomer. And he had a nice bath, and we got the coat nice and clean and lost. We're working on that spring blowout. So he's got the nice lion's mane right here. Sometimes he kind of drowns in his neck fur and fat a little bit, and it's always really
beautiful. Hey, I want to bring a picture up, Abby. Can you explain this to us?
Yeah, well, this is Exhibit A of Maverick not knowing his size. Sometimes I think he might think he's like a 15-pound, 20-pound cat. This was a box I had sitting in my hallway, and he just pulled it on down. He chewed it up a little bit. I was done with it. Squished in the middle and said, "This is my bed now."
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
So funny.
Hey, Bonnie says he's just so beautiful.
He is a very beautiful boy.
Yes.
He is. He looks so happy with himself there.
Yes.
Like
Mama.
He was so proud of himself when he made that box. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually got to witness him doing that.
He heard the box fall, and I was like, "Oh, just a second here. We got to turn the camera." So he's great. I definitely. He didn't know how big he was, but we're working on, the jumping and the sitting on people and things like that. And that's not, that wasn't his own fault. He just didn't know any better.
Right.
We've worked on that. I'm a big girl, so I can handle I can handle that. But of course, when kids and stuff come over, my mom, she's kind of petite. We don't want anybody getting pushed over. So he's a sweet boy. He plays hard, rests hard. And so we like our daily walks. We're getting good with the leash. He was, kind of chewing at his leash as as we
exit stage right.
Yeah. Hi, Maverick. Did you want a cookie? Maverick. Hey, did you want this one? Oh, can you show me 6?
I love bloopers. Now, he's not quite public yet, is he?
No, we're working on that. He should be listed pretty soon.
Okay, so
But
keep your eye on the adoption center, and that's where Maverick will be as soon as he's public. And he's ready to go, isn't he?
Come get it. No, there's.
Oh my! Look at this. My, oh, my. Yeah.
So,
Mr. Maverick.
he's a great.
We had Roman just sign on, and I'm going to bring Roman up with us, okay? So that way Roman can see this awesome picture that Maverick made his own bed. Hi, Roman.
Hi there. If it fits in the box, you can ship it. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's a shipping box.
You know, people always ask if transport's available. So he made his own transport.
There you go.
Yeah, nationalpyr.org. For Maverick, you can actually write his name in if you're interested. He's a young, 2-year-old, you said, approximately?
Yeah, they said 2. My vet said, that was probably accurate, maybe a little bit older than that, but he's definitely got a lot of puppy in him still. So
yeah, he's still doing his puppy stuff. Because living your life on a chain, you don't have an opportunity to be a puppy.
Static energy.
So,
yeah, we don't.
all right. He likes his cookie, doesn't he? He looks like he's going to be a big one, huh?
Yeah, he's been Chewy has been delivering quite often to my house.
I understand that.
Yeah, Sharon gets that. I get that. So nationalpyr.org, you can write Maverick in for his name, and there it is right there. Or right there's where you go. You go to our adoption center for the adoptable dogs, but you can write his name because you can get the application from there. So anyway, now he's in Michigan, but we have transport, and he's going to be ready to go real soon. Maybe we'll see him next week up at the adoption center. We don't know.
Yep.
Abby says she's been having problems getting pictures of him because he won't sit still. Well, what I just saw, that was a perfect opportunity to get a picture.
I think that's a great picture.
I had the day off of work yesterday, so we've had a lot of exercise the past couple of days.
That's good. Boy, he sure is good looking boy.
Yes, he is.
He's a gentle boy.
Yeah. Are you watching the comments, Sharon, by any chance?
I am. Just lots of adorables, beautiful. Love the Pyr Paw.
Yeah.
Love this
Whoever
one.
gets Maverick's probably going to hit the jackpot here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is so cute. Like you just want to just smush his little face.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Nationalpyr.org. If it's happening, that's where it's happening. I got to remember to keep saying that. And by the way, Val says, great job, Abby. All right. We're going to move along here. I'm going to take you down into the green room, Abby, but you're more than welcome to watch the show from there. But I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. If I see something cute, you're coming back up. Okay. So be prepared. But if you have to go, we understand that also. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Nice to see you all.
All right.
Bye, Abby.
All right.
So
Bye,
much for
Maverick.
fostering.
All right. Hi, Sharon.
He's so cute.
All right.
Yes,
Now,
he is.
I'm going to tell you, I can't wait for our next guest. So I'm not going to wait. Wait a minute. Is this our Pyr mix here? Well, so anyway, I can't wait for our next guest. He doesn't really need a lot of introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. Everybody remembers with Great Pyrs and Paws Rescue, we featured Lenny and the 5K that we did for Lenny. Okay. Well, Lenny had his surgery. And all right, Suzanne, here we come.
Okay.
All right, everybody, I want you to see Lenny. And also we have another special guest. We have one of the folks from Great Pyrs and Paws Rescue. Hi, Ann.
Hi, good morning.
And look at Lenny. Everybody remembers Lenny got shot in the face. If you want to give us the brief backstory, Ann, for the folks that didn't see before.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Lenny came into rescue and we discovered he had been shot in the face. So he had to have his eye removed. And he developed some TMJ. What actually has happened when they did his second surgery, they found that the scar tissue behind his eye was attaching to his jaw. So he couldn't open his jaw and he didn't have movement. He was in a lot of pain. So that's what we did the fundraiser for, was the second surgery. And I'll let Suzanne update everybody on how he's doing. He looks fantastic.
He does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. He is such a good boy. I haven't heard him cry since before the surgery. Not one time. So to me, that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
He can open his mouth about this much farther than he could before. He's eating great. He's healing really fast. The swelling has gone down. And he's turning into a different dog, which I can imagine, after being in pain for so long, that his personality is really coming out. And he is being a little bit leash reactive right now. So I'm going to start working on that, which is a pretty easy fix, and because I have a deaf dog and he doesn't help. So I'm going to be working on that with him.
And if I remember right, if you have any problems, I sent you Roman's contact information.
Yes, I know. I was going to talk to him about that via email.
And Roman's sitting right there, so now he has a heads up. And the state after both of your names is the same state.
Yes, it is. That's very helpful.
Yes. Look at that gorgeous boy. I got to post this picture that now this is not an official GPPR picture, but it's actually one that wait a minute, I guess I don't have it up. Oh well, his mouth was open and he's chewing on a stuffed animal. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something, it's just simply amazing. And that is one good looking dog. What do we guess his mix being?
Well, I think at first we thought he was a Pyr Husky, but I'm not so sure now. I mean, he definitely has the I'm going to dig my way out if I have a chance from the Husky, but I don't think that's what he is, really.
To me, he looks like an Akbash.
Well, he does have that hump you were talking about when he's sitting. Whoa.
The ears,
Sorry,
the
making
eye
everyone
location.
dizzy.
Yeah, the ears, the eye location. And Roman has been exposed to a lot of Akbash in the past. And what do you think, Roman?
Well, I think the DNA test will really give us better information.
Yes.
About that, because there are some breed movements a little bit, breeding practices. I don't know how purebred a dog is, what was mixed over the time. So it's hard to say on the look, on the general behavior patterns we have to look for. And I don't feel like being able to say anything in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was worth a shot.
Yeah.
What can I say? And who's he lounging with over there, Suzanne?
Well, that is my Roscoe. That I know Anne knows him because we were in the same rescue at one time when I foster failed.
Wow. I'll tell you from my angle, Lenny, he just looks absolutely content now.
He is very content.
This is awesome.
And to see him playing with toys is just amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it is. So, all right. Thank you so much for the update. And what is his recovery time? Have they given any indication of that at all?
His 2-week appointment is coming up. So I think I will find out more information about that. But I also wanted to let you know that the doctor said that he is lucky to be alive. Because 1 inch the other direction or half an inch, he would not be with us today.
Wow. Okay.
And I also found out that the bullet went in right above his ear and then went straight down and missed his brain. I mean, I'm just shocked that he made it.
That's amazing.
So I've named him Lucky Leonardo. That's what I call him.
Well, we have a couple of our viewers that think he's also Akbash, and but Roman is absolutely correct. A DNA would clear that up if we even care.
Well, I don't think we care, but I think it does help with assessing their personality a little bit more.
Yeah, it could. Okay. But the personality is, you can help form his personality. So
Well, yes, that is very true.
that's a different show, different program. Okay. And that's one that Roman actually has. All right, Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on with this update of Lenny.
You're welcome.
So amazing, the transformation that we've seen here.
Yes, it is.
And if you go to greatpyrsandpaws.org, here, let me post that back up there. They've posted pictures of him, and you just see all kind of good stuff with Lenny. And he's going to be available here sometime in the future, right?
That's the hope. Yes.
Okay, we got to get him healed up. Step one. All right.
Yes.
And that's always something too, is when a dog has a surgery like this that actually relieves their pain and what discomfort they're in, then we get to start seeing their personalities come back out again.
Right.
That is correct.
So I'll be excited to see how he works out. So far as the digging, Pyr's they dig down to go to China also. So
Yes.
so
But on the first day of his recovery, he couldn't go for a walk. So the other two were getting ready to go, and Lenny loves his walks. So he was a little bit upset.
I see. But I bet he's happy now because he gets to go for his walk.
Yes, he is very happy.
Wow. I love that big clock you got there on the wall too.
Oh, thanks. We just painted, so I'm redecorating.
What it does is it shows how early Roman and Ann and Suzanne get up in the morning. So
5:30 for me.
yeah, those of us out here in the Eastern time zone, there's a few hours difference. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna take you and Lenny down to the green room, and just like last time, you're more than welcome to watch the show from down there. And if I see him doing something cute, he's coming back up, just like Maverick. So
That works for me. I want to hear what Roman has to say.
yeah, well, Roman's fixing to come up right now. Okay.
Well, good.
And do you want to go down in the green room with Suzanne, or do you want to stay up and watch?
Yeah, no, I'll go down in the green room, but I do want to say thank you for hosting us. And, the fundraiser for Lenny was very successful. We were able to raise all the funds that we needed, and we had some left over that we're using for some of our medical dogs. So we really appreciate National's support.
Well, we really appreciate everything you do also. Okay. And
Thanks for saving Lenny.
and
Yes.
we're all in this together. We're just so very fortunate. Our village reaches out across from coast to coast.
Mhm.
So, all right.
Awesome. You guys are awesome.
Okay. Well, you guys are awesome too. So we're all awesome. How about that? Okay, Suzanne and Ann, we're bringing Roman up now. So you guys have a good day.
You too. Thank
You
you.
as well.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, Roman.
What's
Hi
up?
there. Roman had had his show on at noon just before, and I joined in. He had a guest on there that is just amazing, and I really liked what she had to say. And I'm gonna after I get back from Columbus this evening, I'm gonna watch that replay. So that was nice.
Yes, me too.
I like that lady. So anyway, so here we are with Ask the Trainer. Anybody got? Oh, I do have a question up here because we have another important segment. Our talking points. I haven't talked to Roman this week, but our talking points this week, Roman, is bloat. There's some new studies out that has very interesting information in it. Okay, so anyway,
You have to talk about that that study because I haven't seen it. I usually follow the studies, but maybe this one I missed.
well, we have a screenshot that'll be up for it, and
Okay.
that actually has there was a podcast, and the what do you call it? The text from the podcast are actually on this site too.
The
So anyway,
transcript.
let's moving forward. Here's a question that actually came in last week I probably close to while we were on the show. Okay. So question is, we adopted a 2-year-old Pyr 15 months ago. The more she bonds with my husband and I, the more aggressive she has become with any visitors we have. I can't even take her for walks near passing vehicles now as she lunges and barks. I cannot control her. I have taken her to 2 obedience classes and consulted with a behavioral trainer. She obeys basic commands, but as soon as she sees a person, vehicle, dog, or wildlife in or near our property, she instantly becomes uncontrollable with barking and lunging. Mm-hmm. It is to the point where I have to muzzle her if anyone's coming over. The interesting thing is that she is fine at the vet's office. I can hand her over to the technicians and she goes quietly with them with no problem. Also, she does not bark at other cars around us once we get into town. We live in a very isolated rural setting with not a lot of visitors coming and going, so repeat exposure to strangers does not appear to be an option for training. Any advice you can provide?
Yes,
wow.
It seems kind of like a disaster. There are different stages dogs go through when they bond with people. So as you notice very clearly, as the time processes, that bond goes deeper and deeper, and it seems like the bond goes into survival relationship, meaning is without you guys, I will not be able to be. And so we have also the breed traits coming into play, where the dog, his breed traits is to guard his family. And now because of that survival relationship, the dog will go, I do as much as I can to keep that relationship going at any cost. And that becomes then that reactivity. It's a functional behavior. The dog does it because he doesn't want what's happening right now to stop. So everybody in their environment who approaches or comes makes that relationship stop, which is the dog's problem. It's not the people's problem at that point. So what I recommend here is obedience is a part of the solution. Relationship building, healthy relationship building is the second part of the solution. One other aspect would be that we have to consider the dog having a trauma response. People approaching in the house, meaning is now that I'm secure and safe in my house, I don't want to be adopted again. So we have this fear, let's call it PTSD response, people coming to take me away. People approach the car to take me away. On the other hand, we can see also that dogs may offer those behaviors because they resource guard their experience. I'm having fun in my car, I guard it as I would guard my bone having fun with. So we have to see it from that perspective. But it's not just one thing. There are multiple things that play a role at the same time. Some dogs offer functional behaviors for multiple reasons as one. They're kind of like very economic. I do that behavior because it serves multiple functions. So I feel the training approach is not the good solution to that. I would definitely suggest to talk to a behaviorist that really understands trauma and really understands the breed to help you build up that change that you want for the dog to go through. And sometimes we have to also observe the people's response to those behaviors because they just increase it. So if we're not showing empathy to the dog's problem and try to correct that behavior because we are feeling embarrassed, it's not helping either. So it becomes a vicious circle. The more you react aggressively towards that behavior, the more the dog tries to increase that behavior because obviously that's what he does is not good enough. So it's kind of a vicious circle, and that has to stop, I think. So I feel doing a consultation, you can do it with me, that works, or somebody who is experienced will help you go through this process. And of course, because the dog is reactive to strangers, you're limited in the options. So online training, well, it is.
You touched on a very valuable point there, Roman. When a dog's behavior, say, for example, he becomes reactive to another person and that other person says, get away from me, get away. We're fueling this.
Right.
We are fueling that reaction because
right.
That's just so we always want to educate. And
yeah.
So are you going to hang around for the bloat session?
Sure.
Could, because there is a second question on a 16-week-old, but we got to get bloat in. Okay. All right. Thank you, Roman. Once again, perfect answer. Okay. And sometimes it just takes a behaviorist. All right. So that's why we have Ask the Trainer section. Okay. Hi, Sharon.
She's muted.
You're muted, Sharon.
Sorry.
And how about that? She's on her laptop with audio.
Yay.
Yes.
And I have no idea what happened to fix it, but it worked today. So we're just going to go with that.
Yeah. So do we want to do the, before we do bloat, do we want to cover the membership campaign?
Yeah, so let's talk about the membership drive. You just saw Lenny, and of course, there was a fundraiser for him. But our Pyr Pack, becoming a member of the Pyr Pack, really helps us save more Pyrs. Helps us save more Pyrs on an ongoing basis. I know just recently we've taken in a couple orthopedic dogs here. Just in the past week, I know of quite a few that are going to probably need orthopedic surgeries. Can you pull that back up again?
Yes.
Just wanted to kind of talk about the gifts. So when you become a member of the Pyr Pack for a limited time, based on the donation amount, you will get a gift as a thank you from us. A $25 donation gets you this cute little decal. A $50 or $5 a month donation gets you the engraved keychain. There's a great baseball cap. That's a $100 donation or $9 a month. We all love the necklace. That's $250 or $21 a month. The wine glasses. So a set of 4 engraved stemless wine glasses is a $500 donation or $42 a month. Or you can get a custom watercolor portrait of your dog. That's a $1,000 donation, or I think that's $84 a month.
Yes.
Or you can get everything for a $2,500 donation or $210 a month. Now, again, it's just a thank you gift. It lasts for a limited time. So there are a limited number of these items. So don't wait to join soon. So you make sure that you get your thank you gift in there. But the biggest thing of all is that you're really helping us save more Pyrs.
That is correct.
And that we appreciate. So, yeah, that will go for at least another couple weeks. But like I said, there are a limited number of some items, so you want to make sure you go ahead and get that in as soon as possible.
Yep, get it in early. And there's your where you go there at nationalpyr.org/become a member.
Yes.
All right. I had that scrolling during the countdown timer too. So
okay, great.
Yeah. All right. Now, Sharon's going to take over the show. And I'm going to shut up. And this is a very important topic because we're coming up to an anniversary here.
Actually, it's today is the 3-year anniversary of Leo's bloat surgery. So 3 years ago today, Leo got bloat. That's a picture of him the day after. He was pretty miserable dog for a little bit afterwards. That's his incision scar. So to kind of tell you about his story, Leo had come to rescue. I actually went and picked him up, so I got to see where he was living, and he was living in this little tiny back porch that was enclosed, and he had not been out of that little enclosure for weeks, if not months. They were just throwing kind of food and water in there for him to eat, and so he was in feces this deep. And he was so happy to get out and come in the car with me, and took him to the kennel, and then went home and told my husband, we need to foster a dog. So he came up to the kennel the next week and met him, and Leo got neutered, and then I went and picked him up from the vet and brought him here, and he was actually just at the point where he was going to get to lose his cone, and be ready and available for adoption, and had recovered from his neuter, and he got bloat. I was actually traveling for work, and my husband called me and said, something's wrong with Leo. He's throwing up. And as he was describing his symptoms, I'm like, you got to get him to the vet. I think he has bloat. You got to get him to the vet. And I was panicked. And he's like, well, I've got a conference call. And I'm like, he's like, so I can and I'm like, no, you got to get him now. Like I'm panicked and in tears. And I hung up the phone with him and called the vet, and the vet was waiting for him when he got there. And they took one look at him and said, he's got bloat. You've got to get him to the emergency vet. We just started a surgery and we only have one OR, and he's got to get there. So, he got him to the emergency vet in probably 45 minutes, maybe total from the start to the time he got to the emergency vet. And his lips were already, and gums were pale and turning blue. And he was, so this is kind of a little, I really like this little graphic that talks about kind of what to look for in bloat. So a lot of times they'll try to vomit, but nothing's coming out. Or sometimes the only thing that's coming out is their saliva. You'll see signs of severe distress. Their stomach will be distended. They pace restlessly. Another sign is that they can't lay down on their stomach. So they can't lay down belly down. If they do lay down, they lay off to their side. They can't get comfortable. Then they get up and they're pacing again. The excessive drooling is because once the stomach flips, nothing can get down into the stomach. So that saliva can't get down. So it's just coming out. The pale gums, pale or bluish gums, or tongue, those are all things to look for. I think there's one more slide that has some other symptoms listed. So the retching, that's the trying to vomit with nothing coming up, the belching. The gas is actually something that you would see more early on, because once the stomach flips, nothing goes out either end. So they really can't get air out on either end. They do pant excessively, and sometimes they will collapse as well. What happens when the stomach flips is it cuts off a lot of circulation. So you can have issues with the heart, you can have issues with other organs being affected as well. So those are some of the symptoms of bloat.
And they can still feel the sensation of hunger, right? And then they eat, and then they can't get into their stomach, and they just throw it right back up.
So most of the time, once they actually get to a certain point, they won't eat.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't. Nothing's going down at all, so they're not going to really put anything in their mouth.
Right.
If they do, it just comes right up.
I think Roman wanted to add something.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Roman. So he had his surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did it take him to recover from that?
Total was about 6 weeks. I think at one point, there he is now, happy boy. I think that at one point I was trying to remember how many staples he had, over 40.
There's a lot of them in this picture.
Mm-hmm. And when he came home, so normally they keep the dogs, for 48 hours after surgery. They actually asked me to pick him up the day after because he was anxious. Yeah, there's the three. There's my trio there. And so they actually asked me to come pick him up early because he was so anxious, and they thought he would do better at home. And he came home and he was still in a lot of pain. Come to find out, it was the fentanyl patch that he was actually having a reaction to. It actually increased his pain and was causing a lot of his distress. Okay. So we were able to get him back to the vet and get that off, and he was better. Okay. And got him a little bit more on the road to recovery.
So know the symptoms, right?
But you definitely want to know the symptoms.
Because you don't have a lot of time.
You don't. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, because one of the big things that always comes up is what causes bloat? How do we prevent it? And to be honest, there's still not clear answers, but there is some new information that's out. And one thing I didn't know is that the first incidence of bloat was actually documented in veterinary literature in 1916. So a lot of people, there is and I don't want to say a myth because I do think it can contribute, but a lot of times, there's the idea that, well, if I don't feed my dog dry dog food, I don't have to worry about bloat. Well, dry kibble didn't come out until 1941. So there's all these years when bloat was first documented until 1941, before kibble even came out, when dogs were still getting bloat. So while I do think that feeding fresh, food and can help reduce, there is studies that show that it can help reduce the incidences of bloat, dogs can still bloat. So that's why you don't want to just think, oh, well, I'm in the clear because I don't do this or because I do this. It's good to know the symptoms. It's good to know what to do in case of that emergency. And so interesting that you say that, Janine. That is,
I brought it up on purpose.
yes. So there's still some debate about that as well. They do say that, dogs that eat fast can have a higher incident of bloat, but they actually have come to find out that they don't believe that it's the intake of air so much that causes bloat, as that it's the fermentation of food. So slow motility. So what happens is the food hits the stomach and then it's not moving along fast enough, and so it ferments, which causes gases to expand and then causes the flipping. So another thing that I always knew, that bloat was more common in large breed dogs. They always say deep-chested dogs, but I didn't know why. I just knew that that was the common information. And it's actually because the ligament that attaches the stomach to the abdominal wall is longer in dogs with that type of anatomy. So if you think about it, you've got this long ligament attaching, kind of a circle. It's easier for that ligament to twist than if you have a shorter ligament holding that circle, of the stomach. So it was kind of interesting to me. There's back, sorry.
Was that you, Sharon?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't hear clicking here, but.
Well, let me mute myself.
But anyway, so that was something that, I always knew it was large breed. There was always a bigger risk with large breed, but I thought that was interesting to kind of find out the actual anatomical reasons why. And that is also why what they have found, a newer study has shown that the bigger risk comes with a deep and narrow chest. So a broad-chested dog isn't as likely, but the deeper and narrower the chest is. If the dog is lean, which we know, like, it's healthy for a dog to be lean, but in Leo's case, he was pretty underweight when he came, so that could have been a contributing factor as well. A first-degree relative, or actually even going back a little bit, if there is a relative in the dog's history. Now, of course, a lot of times with rescues, we don't know that, and there are a lot of breeders that don't take any of that into account, and they don't track their dogs. So sometimes that's really hard to know unless you have a very reputable breeder that is following those things. But they did find that if the dog has a relative that has bloated, their risk greatly increases. If they eat one meal a day, and again, this is one of those things where I knew, but I didn't know why. And it's because if they eat one meal a day, it's a lot of food, a lot of weight that goes into the stomach at once. And again, we get into that fermentation, but also the weight pulls the ligament down, which then makes it easier for it to flip. So, found that to be kind of an interesting fact about it. Another thing that they have also said is a dog that is stressed or a dog that has a fearful or anxious disposition is going to be more likely to bloat. So, those are kind of some of the newer specific, I guess, risk factors. That doesn't mean any dog can bloat. So even your small dogs, even your dogs that don't have a narrow, deep chest, that just increases the risk. It doesn't mean that it can't happen in other cases as well. One of the things I found going back, historically, so the first case was documented in 1916, and for the next 50 plus years, 50 and a half plus years, nothing, the dogs just died. If they came into the vet said your dog has bloat and the dog died. And then in the early 70s, veterinary medicine went, hey, I think maybe we can try to do something to fix this. And that is when they first started going in and doing surgical procedures to fix the position of the stomach and correct bloat. And dogs started to survive. Now, the issue was that there's a very high incidence of reoccurrence, especially within the first 3 months of bloat happening again. So then in the early or mid, to early 80s, they came up with gastropexy. And that is when not only did they go in and fix the position of the stomach, but they actually were able to tack the stomach to the abdominal wall to keep it from flipping in the future. And that's when they started seeing much greater odds of survival in these dogs. And now, Steve, do you have the link to that podcast? The Morris
Yes, I do.
The Morris Animal Foundation is, it's actually one of a favorite foundation of mine. They fund a ton of research for animals on all different types of diseases and illnesses, osteosarcoma, hemangiosarcoma, bloat, cardiomyopathy, and they run on they run on donations, but they fund a lot of these research grants. And this particular episode, they do podcasts. And this particular episode, they spoke with an emergency medicine vet at Tufts. And you can listen to the podcast via that link, or you can actually read the transcript. There's a lot of neat information in here. And she actually said that in their practice, they see about 14,000 to 15,000 dogs a year. And out of that, out of those dogs, they see between 1 and 4 cases of bloat a week. Of course, Danes are the most prevalent of those. And I was actually surprised to hear that the second highest number that they see is German Shepherds. But she also pointed out that that's because Shepherds are one of the most common large breeds. So that would make sense. But there's a lot of really neat information in there that she gives, just about the cause of bloat, the likelihood of survival. And now the likelihood of survival is about 80 to 85%. If you get the dog there and you're able to get treatment in time, there's an 80 to 85% survival rate. Also, that they have found is that age is not a determining factor in that. So a lot of people, as their dog gets older and they have something like this, they may be concerned that their likelihood of the dog surviving at that dog's age is, isn't so great. But what they found is that age alone is not a determining factor. Now, that doesn't mean, if your dog has some other health conditions and other issues, all of that has to be taken into account. But age alone is not a determining factor for survival rate and for recovery.
Dr. Elizabeth Rosansky, she's with Tufts University, right?
Yes.
And you reached out to her, didn't you?
I did. I'm hoping that maybe we could even have her on the show one day. Mm-hmm. I just think that there's a lot of interesting things. Some of the newer research shows that, we've all heard, don't let your dog exercise before or after. And they have found to show that that's really not a determining factor at all. The amount of water intake and the timing of the water intake is not a determining factor. They have also found that sorry, I just lost my thought on what the other myth was. And as far as, so what they have found is that the large majority of dogs that get bloat seem to be in the evening or the middle of the night, which is interesting, because obviously by then, they haven't eaten for a while, and I think that might go back into that slow motility. So if they eat, if they eat at dinner time and then the food isn't going through and you get that fermentation that's happening, it's not passing through. And yes, the gastropexy, so they started doing that in the 70s and 80s after a bloat surgery, and then in the 90s they actually started offering gastropexy as a preventative. And that was largely offered to Dane owners. So it wasn't as widely offered to other large breed owners, but specifically to Danes. And now, as we've gotten into probably in the past several years, it's become more vets are actually recommending it for large breed dogs in general. Personally, if I ever have the opportunity to have a dog that I'm taking to get neutered or spayed, I'm going to have it done. Any new info about raised bowls? So the newest info seems to show that there's more of an incidence with bowls being raised than with dogs eating on the floor. Now, interestingly enough, stress and fear and anxiety are some of the common risk factors, and yet a lot of kennels feed raised. They feed hooked to the side of the gate, and it's a raised bowl. And so there's actually some recommendation to either, if you're attaching that, to put it basically more on the floor, or to just put it on the floor itself.
Now, doesn't this new study with Tufts, with the Morris Foundation, don't they suggest that it was kind of irrelevant and go with what the dog is comfortable with?
So there is because obviously if your dog is stressed in a particular eating position, then that's not going to be beneficial for the dog. So Enzo has always eaten on the floor. He lays down and he eats. He's done it since he was a puppy. He simply lays down, puts his paw in his put my food bowl between my paws. And that's how he eats. Leo pretty much laying down when eating, exactly. The others, they eat on the floor. So, I think that to a point you have to do what your dog is comfortable with. And so when the Purdue did the study, Purdue actually came out to say that the increase, that they're the ones that actually said raising the bowls increased the likelihood of bloat. That came out of one of the Purdue studies. But they did it by following a number of dogs, and they were Dane owners. And in general, it's your large breed owners that feed raised. It's not your smaller breed, so there are more people that feed raised. So it's hard to know the correlation. I believe it was a 53% chance, if I remember right, from the Purdue study. So, I would say if your dog will eat on the floor, it's probably better to feed them on the floor, at least according to current research. They're still doing more. It's one of those things that as long as bloat has been around, it's hard to imagine that we don't have a more clear-cut reason as to the cause of it.
But you know what? It's really encouraging that they're working hard on this. That's very encouraging.
When I took Leo, the emergency vet there told me that of all the diseases in dogs, bloat has been one of the most studied, but they still don't have clear answers.
Right.
They are working to develop or to identify a gene, so that actually they're looking at DNA and trying to identify if there's a particular gene. That doesn't mean your dog's going to get bloat, but that just means that it would be predisposed to bloat. Also, what Tufts study was working on was looking at I want to say heart enzymes, heart protein levels, things to do with the heart and blood. They were looking at if they could identify certain markers that would tell a dog's chances of success of bloat surgery. So in other words, you bring your dog in and it's an emergency, and they found you have this 80 to 85% of dogs that do really well, but then you have this other 15 to 20% of dogs that don't survive. And so they're trying to figure out what it is about those 15 to 20% of dogs that they don't recover from. Why don't they recover from it? And they're trying to identify what that marker is, or if there's a marker for that. So
yeah,
you got her to that time. Yes, it's
Sharon,
the saliva.
What a great topic that this is, isn't it? So we will post the link to the to this. Here, I'll just post it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
The podcast is really interesting. I found it to be, and then I actually went and looked up the Tufts study and was looking up some of the information from there. There's so much, and there's not enough to go into in the time that we have. But I just want to make people aware of it, to make sure that you guys know the symptoms, the signs, that you know what to look for, and that you know that if your dog does get bloat, if you can get them to the vet in time, there is a high likelihood of survival if you can get that treatment in time.
Yeah.
And Leo is my I guess
He's your
my
survivor.
inspiration. Yeah, he's my survivor in that. And of course, after going through bloat with him, we foster failed with him and adopted him. That's why he's here.
That's
3 years
right.
Later. Couldn't let him go. So he became part of the family.
Yeah. And he's a good part of the family. Thank you, Sharon.
He is.
We're going to bring Roman back up because we're going to be able to get this second question in.
Great.
And as soon as I unmute him, oops, sorry, Roman. I didn't mean to put you away, but something clicking was coming in with you. So I don't know what it is. It almost sounds like you're doing your fingernails on your microphone. But anyway, okay. It's this question is from Carly. She says, I adopted a 16-week-old Pyr Anatolian baby. He was born at the rescue home, and I think it was a first come, first served environment. He jumps for and dives into his bowl and tries to gobble treats as they are given to him or our other dog. I feed them separately because he wants it all. I would love best tips on how to train him to wait patiently and use a softer mouth when taking treats.
Well, there are multiple things. First of all, we talked about bloat. We talked about bloat doesn't have any age restriction. We talked about stress is a problem. We talked about competition cause stress at some point. So what I would like to address here first is putting the ball down on the, for the dog to eat. Letting the dog eat this food is rewarding in itself. Now, there are some complications here. First of all, my first question would be, how much food does a dog get? How many times a day does a dog food get this meal? What is the amount of food he gets? What's the quality of food he gets? How many nutrients does he get? Because all these are factors. Then we have to address the previous experience of that puppy. How old was the puppy ending up in the rescue? Was he with his parents? Are emotionally challenges with that puppy? Does the puppy feel competition of his others? Do others coming over to his food and take his food? So all these things do matter on the situation. So the first thing I would rule out is feeding appropriately, breed appropriately, and in the right amount. I know some people with many dogs struggle going through a proper feeding amount and quality process, but you do not compare kilogram and money or pounds and money. You compare cups per day and cost per day. So that's how you compare food with each other. And then you have to compare the quality of the food. Usually some brands tells you that they're good brands, but actually they're not if you know how to read the ingredients and the quality of the ingredients. And some dogs are more in need of nutrient intake. So you're not going exactly as the description on the back says, but you want to go with the energetic needs of the dog. Is he a high energy dog? Does his metabolism is a little bit more than regular dog? So you have to adjust those things too. So you're not go says, oh, puppy, 3 months, 1.5 cup. Well, what breed is the puppy? Okay. And the other thing that I would like you to address is rather feeding the puppy multiple times a day and create a feeding routine rather than letting the puppy go with all this intensity, wanting to eat right there and actually rewarding it. So hand feeding would be an approach, but in between meals, then starting creating a ritual, not having the other dogs involved at that point, literally individually training with your puppy, teaching him what to do with what he considers a ball. So let me grab a ball here for my guys. You see that? That's a trigger. Just having the dog looking at that is already a trigger for a behavior. So we want to make sure that the dog sees the ball, but there's nothing in there. Just because I put the ball down doesn't mean you go after it, because you see what's going to happen. There's nothing in it. But you know where something is in it? If you sit, I'm going to put something in here, and then you can get it. And another one, and another one, and another one. But you don't do that if your dog is hungry, because all you get is frustration, and frustration causes anxiety, and anxiety causes aggression. And we go all this way up. So feed your dog the first round. Maybe you want to add a topper on top of it, like I would say a kefir, for example, a little bit of yogurt. Do not water the kibble. It can cause bloat. Want to make sure that the quality of the kibble is good, the amount is appropriate. And if you guys have any questions on that, welcome to message me. Send me the brand and the flavor, the dog's age and the dog's energy level, and the dog's body score. Is he kind of like a chubby guy, or is he kind of a very thin guy? And then we're going to find out what's the proper amount of food. So you can go to Tufts University and calculate yourself. I may find the link and share it with you guys in the comments. So Tufts University has an amount food calculator. So you go through the process and basically understand how much you have to feed of that particular brand based on the data they give you, rather than guessing around. And the other thing that I would suggest you to do is start creating that feeding protocol. You sit, you come down, you eat. But don't make that a torture event, because that would just make things even worse. So if you don't see those improvements with what I told you right now, don't continue too long. Message me. We're going to eventually change the plan around that. Do video recording so I can see what's happening there. We may eventually lead with trauma. It could be a trauma response. We can help the dog a little bit with a couple of supplements to ease that stress down, because it could be eventually the dog gets stressed because it's feeding time, and because that is what the dog learned when he was in his previous home without sending any wrong messages to anyone. Everybody has a certain belief system how they should handle and feed dogs, no matter if it's a foster or not. So I'm not judging that. I'm just saying it could be a trigger. And we want to make sure that the procedure is rewarding the good behavior and not the bad behavior. Now, in relationship to raised bulls or not, I have a lot of fosters. I work with a lot of fosters of large breeds. I'm a large breed specialist. So one thing that I recognize is that if you feed below the hard line, you're safer than feeding above the hard line of a dog. So large breed can have short legs. So still stay under the hard line where the food has to go up, and the dog doesn't have that option to shovel it in. So it's a different process to taking the food in. One other thing that I saw over the years is that the initial ingredients of that dog food could be a trigger. Now, unfortunately, those studies are being funded sometimes by food manufacturers who have a positive benefit of what they type in it, in the description. And so if you see those universities who are funded by specific food brands, they would never ever tell you that those ingredients are bad for the dogs, because they have to remove all those ingredients with the food, and obviously that will be not eatable anymore. So I'll be very careful how I kind of translate those studies. We have to look in the in-between and compare those studies. I don't know how to compare those studies. I'm not a scientist. You have to really understand what you're reading here and the methodology that you approach here, and the approach of the questionnaires. Sometimes you can ask a question a certain way to get a specific direction of the answer, which leads you to specific conclusions, because somebody who fundraise that research have a specific gain on that. I recognize that some low quality ingredients do affect the dog's muscle quality and you know, the cell structure, and they do affect how the dog can respond to those kind of twisting and pressures. Also, the ingredients of the foods do affect the dog. So it is the food, and yes, we have seen raw feeding, but back then we didn't know exactly how to feed dogs. So I wouldn't say that raw feeding back then in the 50s is the same as raw feeding right now. There was a special idea of how do we feed dogs. And so it's really difficult to compare those data. So However, science is here to help us. It's not here to direct us what to do. It's just to help us understanding things. So we have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
That's my take on that.
All right.
You know, and someone mentioned puzzle bowls before. I know the puppy that I had here as a foster, he did that. He would dive into his food, and I used a puzzle bowl for him. And actually, it not only slowed his feeding, but it calmed him. That little flat bowl, he stopped getting so, you know, he would just sit, and I'd set it down, and then he would eat. So the puzzle bowl was kind of doubly beneficial there. Not sure why it worked, but it was helpful for him.
All right. This is awesome. Lenny's coming back up. We're going to bring Ann back up. Hi, Ann. Hi, Lenny. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this week. Okay. It's very, very interesting show. Next week, we're working on having Hachi on. Okay. And you don't want to miss that. And everybody remember the snuffle mats? I was slipped a note from my wife saying she was on her way to Joanne Fabrics to get more fleece.
I love the snuffle mats.
So she can finish making her snuffle mat. Okay. So Lenny, I think we bored him to tears. Either that or his pain meds made him sleepy. Could be one of the two.
His meds have made him sleepy.
And we're also going to ask Rebecca to give us an update on Pee Wee. Do we remember Mr. Pee Wee? He had FHO surgery down here in Springfield. Well, he's back at home with his foster mom now, and we're going to ask his foster mom to come on like what Lenny did, come on and give us an update. She'll get him all brushed and fluffed and like Lenny. And Greg has made an absolute good point here. Lenny looks comfy.
He does.
And in case we forget, happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter to you as well.
Yeah, Roman, mine's my audio is skipping. I get it. So anyway, we're gonna call it a day. And happy Easter, everybody. And we'll see you next Saturday, and I'll get my internet fixed. So
Have a great weekend.
all right, and here we
Bye,
go.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.